Tokyo, 37 million people, the world's largest megacity, a neon-drenched monument to human ambition built on ground that wants to kill it. Tokyo is dying, not tomorrow, slowly, methodically. We're building the timeline from earthquake to exodus. The math has always been there, we just didn't want to look at it. The 2030s, the seismic threshold. Tokyo sits on a bomb with a timer we can actually hear ticking. 4 tectonic plates converge directly beneath the city, all grinding against each other in a geological pressure cooker. It's been over 100 years since the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake, and geologists don't speak in ifs anymore. They speak in percentages. A 70% probability of it hitting in the mid-2030s. A magnitude 7+ event centered not offshore like the 2011 Tohoku quake, but directly beneath the metropolitan core. They call it the Tokyo Inland Earthquake. In 2034, it finally hits. 37 million people experience simultaneous mechanical failure of reality. Buildings designed to sway instead shatter. The famous earthquake-proof skyscrapers perform exactly as engineered. They don't collapse, but their interiors are destroyed, rendering them structurally sound coffins. Fiber optic cables snap. The Yamanote line, the circulatory system of the city, buckles in 47 locations. 18,000 people die in the first 72 hours. Then, the world's third largest economy suffers a 95 trillion yen hemorrhage, roughly $610 billion in infrastructure damage. Not just Tokyo's problem. The global supply chain, which runs through this city's ports and manufacturing partnerships, seizes. Financial markets from New York to Singapore enter freefall as investors realize that the safe Japanese economy was built on top of a geological fault line that just moved. The rescue is a marvel of robotic precision. AI-coordinated drone swarms locate survivors in collapsed structures. Hydrogen-powered exoskeleton crews work 96-hour shifts clearing debris. By 2036, the city looks operational again from satellite images. But walk the streets and you'll notice something haunting. Entire neighborhoods have been abandoned, not because they were destroyed, but because no one wants to rebuild where the earth proved it could open up and swallow you whole. The seismic threshold wasn't just geological, it was psychological. Tokyo learned it was mortal. That realization was nothing compared to what the water would teach them. The 2040s, the floodgates. If the earthquake was a sudden trauma, the floods are a slow drowning. Tokyo's dirty secret has always been its elevation, or lack thereof. The eastern wards of Koto, Sumida, and Edogawa are what engineers call zero-meter zones, areas that sit below sea level, kept dry only by a Victorian-era system of pumps running 24/7. 2.5 million people live in a bathtub that only stays empty because we choose to keep bailing. But by the 2040s, climate change stops asking for permission. Sea levels in Tokyo Bay rise faster than projected models anticipated. Typhoons supercharged by warmer Pacific waters arrive with terrifying new intensity. And then there are the guerrilla rainstorms, localized cloudbursts triggered by the urban heat island effect that drop 3 months of rainfall in 90 minutes with zero warning. The water has nowhere to go. It just rises. In 2042, Typhoon Kaori hits during a spring tide. The storm surge overtops the bay's outer defenses, and simultaneously, a guerrilla rainstorm dumps record precipitation over the zero-meter zones. The famous G-Cans project, the underground cathedral, a massive subterranean discharge system with pillars the size of rockets, reaches maximum capacity in 11 minutes. It was designed to be a failsafe. It fails. Water floods the Tozai subway line, forcing a permanent closure of the eastern section. 340,000 residents evacuate in a single night, many never returning. The images are apocalyptic. Water pouring down subway entrances like urban waterfalls, cars floating through intersections, century-old temples submerged to their rooflines. Therefore, Tokyo makes a decision that would have been unthinkable a generation earlier. It will sacrifice neighborhoods to save the city. The Super Levee project accelerates. These aren't your grandfather's flood walls. They're 300-meter-wide, gently sloping earthen fortresses that require the total demolition and reconstruction of entire districts. By 2044, the government begins forced buyouts. Homes that have been in families for 4 generations are bulldozed to create massive elevated zones. The new eastern Tokyo rises 10 meters higher, rebuilt on artificial plateaus of compacted earth and concrete. By 2048, the transformation is complete. The city now has 2 elevations: the upper city, protected by super levees and advanced sensor networks that can predict flood events 72 hours in advance, and the lower city, areas deemed economically inefficient to save, where buildings are slowly reclaimed by persistent wetland conditions. The Tokyo that emerges is drier but colder. The organic chaos of its low-lying neighborhoods, the tiny bars, the family-run shops, the chaotic energy that made Tokyo feel alive has been replaced by engineered precision. It's safer, it's soulless, and it runs on a fuel that doesn't exist yet. The 2050s, the hydrogen horizon. By 2050, Tokyo completes the most ambitious energy transition in human history. The zero-emission Tokyo mandate becomes constitutional law. After decades of nuclear resistance post-Fukushima and limited land for solar farms, the city bets everything on hydrogen. Not as a supplement, as total replacement. This is an urban organ transplant on a living patient. Every skyscraper, apartment block, and subway station gets retrofitted with fuel cells. Natural gas pipelines that heated homes for 80 years now carry liquid hydrogen from Australia and the Middle East. Internal combustion engines are banned. The iconic Tokyo taxi becomes a silent, hydrogen-powered ghost. But the most dramatic change is architectural. Buildings stop consuming energy and start producing it. By 2052, all structures over 20 meters must generate 60% of their power through integrated fuel cells. Rooftops bloom with hydrogen storage tanks like industrial flowers. The skyline transforms. Less glass and steel, more exposed infrastructure. A cyberpunk aesthetic born from necessity. Tokyo becomes the first megacity on Earth to achieve net zero emissions. Air quality improves so dramatically that cherry blossoms bloom 2 weeks earlier in 2054. But miracles have costs. The transition prices out small businesses, ramen shops, family izakayas, vintage bookstores. They can't afford the 40 million yen retrofit. By 2054, over 60,000 mom-and-pop shops close permanently. Corporate chains, backed by subsidies, fill the vacuum. The city becomes cleaner, quieter, more efficient, also more uniform. The hydrogen horizon saves Tokyo's lungs, but erases parts of its soul. And that soul was already fading because the people were disappearing. The late 2050s, the demographic cliff. In 2058, Tokyo crosses a threshold that changes the fundamental nature of what a city is. 1 in 3 residents is now over 65 years old. This isn't a demographic shift, it's a demographic inversion. The population pyramid has flipped upside down, creating a society where diapers for the elderly outsell diapers for babies by 12 to 1. Schools close at a rate of 1 per week. The legendary youth culture of Shibuya, the street fashion, the music, the chaotic energy that made Tokyo feel alive becomes a museum exhibit.
For decades, Tokyo survived by cannibalizing the rest of Japan, pulling young people from rural areas with the promise of opportunity.
But by the late 2050s, that well has run dry. The countryside is empty. There's no one left to steal. And Japan's cultural resistance to mass immigration means there's no external population to pull from. Therefore, the city faces a labor void that threatens basic survival. There aren't enough people to drive trains, to clean streets, to staff hospitals, to deliver packages. The work that kept a city of 37 million functioning simply cannot be done by the 19 million who remain. Tokyo implements a robot-first social contract. Every service role is automated by necessity, not choice. Autonomous trains run with 0 human operators. Cleaning is handled by rover-style drones. Medical care is delivered through AI diagnostic systems and robotic surgical assistants. The city hums with mechanical efficiency, but something breaks in the culture. The extreme work ethic that defined the salaryman generation collapses under its own weight. With fewer young people, companies can't enforce 80-hour weeks. Work-life balance, once a Western joke, becomes mandatory policy. The change is sudden and disorienting, like a religion losing its God. Paradoxically, this creates space for a different kind of life. The hikikomori crisis, young people withdrawing from society, begins to decline as social pressure eases. Smaller, quieter communities form around shared interests rather than corporate identity. Artisan crafts, once dying, experience a renaissance as automation handles survival needs and humans return to creation. It's not the Tokyo anyone imagined, but for the first time in a century, people aren't drowning in work just to stay afloat. The city is learning to live smaller. It's about to learn to live even smaller still. 2070, the compact city era. By 2070, Tokyo has shrunk, not in pride, but in footprint. The math is brutal. 15 million people can't maintain infrastructure built for 37 million. In 2062, the government implements managed retreat, withdrawing services from low-efficiency zones. The suburbs die first. Western Tama, Northern Saitama, once the suburban dream, now ghost towns. Bus service stops, then garbage collection, then water pressure. By 2065, homes from the 1980s bubble sit empty, reclaimed by forest. Deer wander through neighborhoods that held 100,000 people. The survivors consolidate into urban islands, hyper-dense smart hubs that function as self-contained ecosystems. Vertical farms grow food inside towers. Water recycles at 99% efficiency. Fuel cells generate power on site. But the most visible change is in the sky. eVTOL air taxis swarm between hubs like mechanical dragonflies. Highways become linear parks. The wealthy live airborne, the middle class in towers. The outer ring ceases to exist. Greater Tokyo contracts to 40% of its former size, while density increases 250%. It's the most efficient city on Earth, but the chaotic megacity of ramen joints and stacked neon signs, archaeologically extinct. Tokyo didn't die, it evolved into something entirely unrecognizable. Looking back, we realize that the Tokyo of 2026 didn't actually die. It evolved into something entirely unrecognizable. It transitioned from the world's most populated neon-soaked metropolis into a quiet, automated masterpiece of survival. We watched a city of 37 million people face the ultimate math problem of a disappearing population and a rising ocean. Through earthquakes and floods, Tokyo chose to stop fighting nature and started to fuse with it. By trading its famous salaryman chaos for the hum of hydrogen fuel cells and the silence of eVTOL taxis, Tokyo became the world's first true energy net zero fortress, a collection of hyper-efficient urban islands that proved a city doesn't need to grow forever to be successful. It just needs to learn how to float.